In area news impacting us this Monday morning, January 16, 2017, a well-known Aroostook County lawmaker was part of a group of Maine Democrats to rally in support of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, that down in the state's largest city. Hundreds of people who want to save the Affordable Care Act joined in yesterday's rally to keep Congress from scuttling the law. Northern Aroostook State Senator Troy Jackson of Allagash, U.S. Congresswoman Shelley Pingree, and State Representative Ben Collings hosted the rally on the steps of Portland's City Hall yesterday afternoon. The three Democrats are among many who say a Republican drive to end the ACA is a threat to the health security of millions of Americans. Vermont U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, an independent, has called for a similar rally to take place around the country as a strike against efforts to repeal the ACA. The Republican-controlled U.S. Senate on Thursday passed a measure to take the first step toward dismantling President Barack Obama's signature health insurance law. Some 100 Maine state lawmakers were in Aroostook over the weekend, wrapping up their Aroostook visit at Northern Maine Community College in Presque Isle. There they heard NMCC President Tim Crowley ask them to consider establishing graduate programs in the county, noting how seamless it is for community college students to move on to UMPI or UMFK toward a bachelor's degree. Gary Voisin of Voisin Brothers Incorporated in Fort Kent spoke of the problems in the logging industry, insurance in particular. He reminded Solons that 1 in 20 jobs in Maine is connected to the forest products industry. And Michael Kelly, an executive vice president of Machias Savings Bank, urged them to put aside party politics and be ever mindful of the hard-earned money of their constituents. Kelly is a 40-year veteran of the banking industry. The lawmakers later bus to Millinocket after their Aroostook tour. Maine's potato industry will gather in Caribou for a conference related to all things tuber. The University of Maine's Cooperative Extension is hosting the 32nd Annual Maine Potato Conference and Trade Show. That'll be January 18th and 19th in Caribou. The conference brings together potato producers, farm workers, and crop advisors for topics such as soil health, agricultural technology, and combating drought. Potatoes are the signature crop here in northern Maine. The state was the 9th largest potato producer in 2013. Maine harvested some 53,000 acres that year. The conference will take place at the Caribou Inn and Convention Center. That'll be on Wednesday and Thursday. Canada's Prime Minister will be in New Brunswick tomorrow. Maritimers will have a chance to question Justin Trudeau about regional issues as he begins the second week of his roving campaign to reconnect with ordinary Canadians. The Prime Minister kicks off the Atlantic leg of his national outreach tour in Halifax today with a visit to a local coffee shop and a town hall forum hosted by the city's mayor. Mayor Mike Savage tweeted Sunday that the event has been moved to the 3,000-seat Dartmouth Sportsplex Arena, that due to the overwhelming positive response over the weekend. Trudeau will head to New Brunswick tomorrow for an event in Fredericton and is scheduled to make stops in Quebec, the Prairies, and British Columbia as that road trip continues. The Goodwill Tour got off to a bit of a rocky start last week, with Trudeau facing pointed questions about his Christmas vacation on an island in the Bahamas, one owned by Aga Khan, and also the Liberal Party's Cash for Access fundraisers. The resurgence of the American bald eagle is one of the country's great success stories, but some farmers and conservationists say the continued growth of that bird's population is coming with a price. Wildlife biologists say the eagles have come back so strong that they are interfering with efforts to preserve more jeopardized species such as loons and cormorants. The chicken farmers who prefer to pasture-raise their flock are learning the birds are especially an open buffet for the eagles. Audubon Society bird counts show that the eagles are climbing in numbers and will likely continue to do so. Counters found 30,000 of them in 2015, more than double the 1995 count. Well, the oldest Bath-built wooden vessel known to be still afloat, coming home. The Maine Maritime Museum is set to acquire the two-masted clipper, built by shipwright Thomas E. Hagen back in 1906. The Mary E. is currently owned by Matthew Cullen of Pelham, New York. The 73-foot-long clipper is scheduled to be delivered in April to the Waterfront Museum. The museum has raised $350,000 of the $1.5 million needed to make the purchase, restore it to ship shape, and maintain the historic vessel as a public exhibit. Amy Lent, the museum's executive director, says the goal is to be able to sail that ship for special occasions. Well, number 2 in our series of people who make us look good is Glenna Johnson Smith. She is 96 years old, published author, resident of Presque Isle, has been for decades. However, Glenna was born and raised in Hancock County near the coast.
Everyday stuff is quite interesting when you come right down to it. I was an only child and I had to keep quiet. My parents wouldn't put up with kids running or talking, and so I used to sit and write. My father had an old Underwood typewriter. Great big monster of a thing. And I typed on that when I was quite young. I grew up in Asheville, which was a little village in the town of Sullivan, near the coast in Hancock County. Whatever's going on, write about it.
Whatever's going on, write about it, she says. And Glenna Johnson Smith has done just that in 2 delightful books.
Old Maine Woman and Return of Old Maine Woman. And they're published by Islandport Press. I always wrote when I was an only child, and I'd sit and write stories and poems and things just for fun.
Her first book was published when she was 90 years old, was the biggest selling volume Islandport Press had ever taken on. We'll tell you more about Glenna Johnson Smith on our newscasts tomorrow morning on Channel X News, where news matters more.